The silver tray slipped from Clara's hands. It hit the marble floor with a crash that echoed through the grand entrance hall. Soup splattered across the pristine white tiles. Some of it splashed onto Lady Margaret's silk shoes. The entire room fell silent. Clara dropped to her knees at once. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. "You clumsy fool!" Lady Margaret shrieked. Her voice pierced the air like a knife. "Look what you have done to my shoes. These cost more than you will earn in a year." Clara kept her eyes down. Her hands trembled as she tried to gather the broken pieces of china. Blood appeared on her finger where a sharp edge had cut her. She did not dare to stop. Around her, the other servants watched in silence. No one would help her. No one ever did. "I am sorry, my lady," Clara whispered. Her voice was barely audible. "I am so very sorry." "Sorry?" Lady Margaret's laugh was cold and cruel. "Sorry does not replace my ruined shoes, does it? You are worthless, utterly worthless. I do not know why we keep you here at all." Clara's stepmother, Lady Catherine, glided into the hall. Her face was tight with anger. She looked at Clara with disgust. It was a look Clara had seen countless times since her father died 3 years ago. That was when everything had changed. That was when Clara went from being a daughter to being something less than a servant. "Get up," Lady Catherine hissed. "Clean this mess immediately. Then go to the kitchens. You will not eat today. Perhaps hunger will teach you to be more careful." Clara nodded. She gathered the broken pieces onto what remained of the tray. Her cut finger left small red marks on the white china. She could feel everyone's eyes on her. She could hear their whispers. The shame burned in her chest like hot coals. But she had learned not to cry in front of them. She saved her tears for the darkness of her tiny attic room. This was Clara's life now. She woke before dawn each morning. She carried heavy buckets of water up 3 flights of stairs. She scrubbed floors until her knees ached. She washed dishes until her hands were raw and red. She served meals to her stepmother and stepsisters, while her own stomach growled with hunger. She mended their clothes and polished their shoes. She made their beds and emptied their chamber pots, and through it all they mocked her. "Look at her hair," Lady Margaret would say, "like straw. No man would ever want such an ugly creature." And those hands, her younger stepsister, Lady Jane, would add, "so rough and red, like a common washerwoman." Clara had stopped looking at mirrors. She had stopped thinking of herself as a person worthy of kindness or love. She was 22 years old, in her world that made her practically an old maid. Not that it mattered. Who would marry a penniless girl with no family and no prospects? A girl who slept in a servant's room and ate table scraps. But deep inside, in a place she tried to hide even from herself, Clara remembered different times. She remembered her father's warm laugh. She remembered how he used to call her his little songbird because she loved to sing. She remembered her real mother, who died when Clara was just 8 years old. Her mother had been kind and gentle. She had taught Clara to read and to paint. She had told Clara that true beauty came from a kind heart, not a pretty face. Clara clung to those memories on the hardest days. They were all she had left. In the kitchen, Cook pressed a piece of bread into Clara's hand when no one was looking. Cook was old and round, with kind eyes that crinkled when she smiled. She was the only person in the house who treated Clara with any warmth. "Eat it quickly, child," Cook whispered. "You are getting too thin." Clara ate the bread in 3 bites. It was dry and a bit stale, but it was food. Her empty stomach welcomed it gratefully. "Thank you," Clara said softly. "Lady Catherine is a cruel woman," Cook said, shaking her head. "Your father would be heartbroken to see how she treats you. He loved you so much." "I know," Clara replied. Her throat tightened. "I try to remember that." Far across the city, in a palace made of white stone and surrounded by beautiful gardens, Prince Alexander stood at his study window. He looked out at the grounds, but saw nothing. His mind was elsewhere. It was always elsewhere these days. He felt empty, hollow, like a man going through the motions of living without actually being alive. He was 30 years old. He was tall and handsome, with dark hair and grey eyes that women called striking. He was heir to the throne. He had wealth beyond measure. He had power and influence. He had everything a man could want, except he had nothing that mattered. His mother had died 2 years ago. His father, the king, had followed her 6 months later. Some said the king had died of a broken heart. Alexander believed it. He understood that kind of pain. He felt it every day. The palace felt too big now, too quiet, too empty. "Your Highness," his advisor Lord Hampton said from the doorway, "the council is waiting." Alexander turned. He nodded. He straightened his jacket and followed Lord Hampton down the long corridor. His footsteps echoed on the marble floors. Everything echoed in this place. There was no warmth, no laughter, no life. The council meeting was like all the others. Boring discussions about taxes and trade agreements. The council members talked and talked. Alexander sat in his chair and pretended to listen. He knew what they wanted. They wanted him to marry. They wanted him to produce an heir. They wanted him to secure the royal line. "Your Highness," the Duke of Somerset said, "we really must address the matter of your marriage. You are not getting any younger. The kingdom needs stability. It needs to know there will be a next generation." Alexander felt tired, so very tired. "I am aware of my duties," he said quietly. "Then perhaps we might arrange some suitable introductions," the Duke pressed. "There are several young ladies of good family who would make excellent queens." Alexander had met those young ladies. They were beautiful and accomplished. They could speak 3 languages and play the piano. They could discuss literature and politics. They were perfect, and they bored him to tears. There was no spark, no connection. They looked at him and saw a crown, not a man. They wanted his title, not his heart. "I will consider it," Alexander said, which was what he always said. After the meeting, he walked through the palace gardens. The roses were in full bloom. Their scent filled the air. His mother had loved these gardens. She had spent hours here, tending to the flowers herself. The head gardener had been horrified at first. A queen should not work with her own hands, he had said, but she had just laughed. She told him that getting her hands dirty made her feel alive. Alexander understood that now. He understood the need to feel something real, something genuine. He was surrounded by people all day, every day, yet he felt utterly alone. Everyone wanted something from him. No one saw him, really saw him. The man beneath the crown, the son who missed his parents, the person who longed for simple, honest connection. He sat on a stone bench beneath an old oak tree. A memory came to him. He was 7 years old. His mother had brought him to this very spot. She had held his hand and told him something important. "Alexander," she had said, "one day you will be king. People will bow to you. They will call you your majesty. But never forget that you are a person first. You have a heart. You have feelings. You have the right to be happy. Do not let duty crush the life out of you. Find someone who sees you, not your crown. Find someone who makes you laugh. Find love, my darling boy, real love." At 7, he had not understood. Now, at 30, he understood all too well. But where would he find such a person? Everyone he met was part of this world. This cold, political world of titles and expectations. He wanted to meet someone real. Someone who had known hardship. Someone who understood that there were things more important than wealth and status. He wanted to meet someone with a kind heart. 3 weeks later, Lady Catherine made an announcement at breakfast. Clara was serving tea when she heard the words that would change everything. "We have been invited to Lord Blackwood's country estate for the summer," Lady Catherine said. Her voice dripped with satisfaction. "He is hosting a month-long house party. All of society will be there, including Prince Alexander." Lady Margaret gasped with delight. "The prince? Oh, mother, do you think he might notice me?" "If you are clever, he certainly will," Lady Catherine replied. She sipped her tea. "This is our chance, girls. One of you must catch his eye. Imagine it. A princess, perhaps even a queen one day." Clara poured tea with steady hands. She felt nothing at this news. Princes and house parties were not part of her world. She would likely be left behind, or if she did go, she would work in the kitchens. She would not attend any parties or balls. She would not wear pretty dresses or dance. She would remain invisible, as always. But fate had different plans. 2 days before the journey, Lady Margaret's personal maid fell ill with a terrible fever. Lady Catherine flew into a panic. Margaret could not possibly go without a lady's maid. What would people think? But there was no time to hire someone new, no time to train someone properly. "Clara will have to go," Lady Catherine said finally. She looked as if the words tasted bitter in her mouth. "Clara?" Lady Margaret wrinkled her nose. "But she is so clumsy and stupid. She knows how to dress hair and lace a corset." Lady Catherine said, "She will have to do. But Clara..." She turned her cold eyes on her stepdaughter. "You will speak to no one. You will be seen by no one. You will stay in the servants' quarters at all times, unless Margaret needs you. Is that clear?" "Yes, my lady," Clara said quietly. And so Clara found herself in a carriage, travelling to Lord Blackwood's estate. She sat with the other servants, squeezed into an uncomfortable seat. The journey took all day. By the time they arrived, the sun was setting. The estate was magnificent. It sprawled across acres of green land. The main house was built of honey-coloured stone. Gardens surrounded it on all sides. Clara could see roses and lavender and climbing ivy. It was the most beautiful place she had ever seen. The servants' entrance was at the back of the house. Clara was shown to a tiny room in the attic. It was small and plain, but it had a window. Through that window, she could see the gardens. She could see the sunset painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. For a moment, just a moment, she allowed herself to imagine that she was a guest here, that she could walk in those gardens, that she could wear a beautiful dress and dance in the ballroom. Then she shook her head. Such thoughts were dangerous. They only led to disappointment. The house party began the next day. Clara woke early to help Lady Margaret dress. She laced the corset tight. She arranged the elaborate hairstyle. She fastened the jewelry. Lady Margaret examined herself in the mirror and smiled. "I look beautiful," she said. "The prince will surely notice me tonight." Clara said nothing. She knew better than to agree or disagree. That evening, there was a grand ball. Clara heard the music floating up from the ballroom below. She heard laughter and the sound of dancing feet. She was alone in the attic. Her work was done for the night. Lady Margaret would not need her again until bedtime. Clara could not resist. She crept down the servants' stairs. She found a small alcove near the ballroom. From there she could peek through a gap in the curtains. She could see the dancing couples. The women wore gowns of silk and satin, in every color imaginable. The men wore fine black suits with white cravats. Candles blazed in crystal chandeliers. It was like something from a fairy tale. And there, in the center of it all, was Prince Alexander. Clara had never seen him before. She had heard descriptions, of course. Everyone talked about the handsome prince, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. He was tall and elegant. He moved with natural grace. His face was handsome, yes, but there was something else. Something in his eyes. They looked sad. Even when he smiled, his eyes remained sad. Clara understood that look. It was the look of someone who was lonely. She watched as Lady Margaret approached him. Her stepsister laughed too loudly. She batted her eyelashes in an exaggerated way. The prince was polite. He danced with her, but Clara could see that he was not interested. His smile never reached those sad grey eyes. Clara felt a strange stirring in her chest. She felt sorry for him. This powerful prince who seemed so alone in the middle of a crowd. She wanted to tell him that she understood, that she knew what it felt like to be surrounded by people yet feel utterly isolated, that she knew what it was to go through the motions of life without really living. But of course, she could never tell him any of that. He would never even know she existed. Or so she thought. The next morning, Clara woke early as always. She crept down to the kitchens before dawn. She hoped to find some breakfast. The cook here was kind, much like cook back home. She had given Clara extra food the night before. "You are too thin, girl," she had said. Exactly like cook said. Maybe all cooks were kind. Clara took a piece of bread and a bit of cheese. She decided to eat outside. The morning air was fresh and cool. The gardens were empty. Everyone else was still asleep after the late night. She found a small bench hidden among the rose bushes. She sat down and ate her simple meal. Birds sang in the trees above her. The roses smelled sweet. For a few precious moments, Clara felt something close to peace. "I hope I am not disturbing you." The voice made Clara jump. She leaped to her feet. The bread fell from her hands. She turned and found herself face to face with Prince Alexander. Her heart stopped. She dropped into a deep curtsy. Her cheeks burned with shame. She was not supposed to be here. She was not supposed to be seen. Lady Catherine would be furious. "Please forgive me, Your Highness," Clara stammered. "I did not mean to intrude. I was just leaving." "No, please," the prince said quickly. "Do not leave on my account. I came here to escape the crowds. I did not expect to find anyone else, but I am glad I did. Please, sit." Clara did not know what to do. A prince had just asked her to sit, but Lady Catherine's orders rang in her ears. "Speak to no one. Be seen by no one." "I should not, Your Highness," she whispered. "I am just a servant." Something flickered in the prince's eyes. Not anger, something else, understanding perhaps. "A servant who enjoys watching the sunrise," he said gently. "That is not a crime. Please, I would welcome the company, if you are willing." Clara looked at him. Really looked at him. He was not wearing fine clothes this morning, just simple trousers and a white shirt. His hair was slightly messy. He looked younger without all the royal trappings, and those eyes, those sad, lonely eyes. Against her better judgment, Clara sat down. The prince sat beside her, not too close. He kept a respectful distance. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just sat together in the quiet morning, watching the sun rise higher in the sky. "What is your name?" the prince asked finally. "Clara, Your Highness." "Clara," he repeated it softly. "A pretty name. Are you enjoying the house party, Clara? A bitter laugh escaped her lips before she could stop it. She clapped her hand over her mouth. How rude, how terribly rude to laugh at a prince's question. But the prince did not look offended. Instead he smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. I take it that means no, he said. Clara hesitated. She should lie. She should say everything was wonderful. But something about this moment made her honest. I do not attend the parties, Your Highness, she said quietly. I am a lady's maid. I stay in the servants' quarters. I am not meant to be seen. The prince was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was sad. Not meant to be seen, he repeated. What a terrible way to live. Clara looked at him in surprise. But I am just a servant, Your Highness. That is how it is supposed to be. Is it? The prince gazed out at the gardens. I wonder, I am surrounded by people every moment of every day. Everyone sees me, everyone watches me, yet I feel invisible too. They see the prince, they see the crown, but they do not see me, the person underneath. So perhaps we are not so different, you and I. Clara's breath caught. She had thought the exact same thing last night while watching him dance. How strange that he felt it too. You looked sad, Clara said before she could stop herself. Last night, at the ball, I saw you dancing. You smiled, but your eyes were sad. The prince turned to look at her. His gaze was intense, searching. You saw that? He asked softly. Clara nodded. I did. I am sorry, Your Highness. I should not have said anything. No. He shook his head. Do not apologize. You are the first person in 2 years to really see me. Do you know that? Everyone else looks at me and sees what they want to see, but you saw the truth. They sat in silence again. But this time, the silence felt comfortable, natural. Clara felt herself relaxing. She forgot for a moment that she was sitting with a prince. He was just a person, a lonely person who needed a friend. Why were you sad? Clara asked gently. If I may ask. The prince took a deep breath. I lost my parents, he said. My mother 2 years ago, my father 6 months later. The palace feels empty without them. My whole life feels empty. I go through the motions. I do my duty, but I feel nothing. I am just existing, not living. Tears pricked Clara's eyes. I understand, she whispered. I lost my father 3 years ago. My mother died when I was 8. After my father passed, everything changed. I became a servant in what used to be my own home. My stepmother treats me like I am worth nothing. Some days I feel like I am not even a real person anymore, like I am just a shadow. The prince reached out. He took her hand in his. His touch was warm and gentle. Clara should have pulled away. It was not proper, but she did not want to. His hand felt like an anchor, like something real and solid in a world that had become so cold and uncertain. You are not a shadow, the prince said firmly. You are real. You are here. I see you, Clara. Those simple words broke something inside her. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She could not stop them. It had been so long since anyone had truly seen her, since anyone had treated her like she mattered. I am sorry, she sobbed. I should not cry. Why not? The prince asked. Tears are honest. They are real. Cry if you need to. So Clara cried, and the prince sat beside her, still holding her hand, until the tears stopped. When she finally looked up, the sun had risen fully. The garden was bright with morning light. She needed to go. Lady Margaret would be waking soon. She would need help dressing. I must leave, Clara said reluctantly. My lady will need me. Will I see you again? The prince asked. There was hope in his voice. I do not know, Your Highness. I am not supposed to be seen. Then I will have to come to where you are, he said. He smiled. Tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Will you come? Clara knew she should say no. This was dangerous. If anyone found out, she would be in terrible trouble. But when she looked into those grey eyes, she could not refuse. I will come, she whispered. The prince brought her hand to his lips. He kissed it gently. Until tomorrow, Clara. Clara fled back to the house. Her heart raced. Her mind spun. What had just happened? She had spoken with a prince. She had held his hand. He had kissed her hand, and he wanted to see her again. It felt like a dream. A beautiful, impossible dream. But when Clara helped Lady Margaret dress that morning, reality came crashing back. Her stepsister was in a foul mood. The prince barely looked at me last night, Margaret complained. He danced with me once and then made excuses. I need to try harder. Mother says I must do something to catch his attention. Clara braided Margaret's hair in silence. Guilt twisted in her stomach. She had done nothing wrong. She had not tried to catch the prince's attention, but she had it nonetheless. And if anyone found out, there would be consequences. Still, the next morning Clara crept out to the garden again. Her heart pounded with fear and excitement. What if he did not come? What if it had all been a whim? What if he had forgotten all about the sad servant girl? But he was there, waiting on the same bench. His face lit up when he saw her. You came, he said. He sounded relieved. I said I would, Clara replied. They sat together and talked, really talked. The prince asked about her life, about her childhood, about her mother and father. Clara found herself telling him everything, things she had never told anyone, about how her stepmother had taken everything from her, about the loneliness and the hard work and the constant mockery, about how she sometimes felt like giving up. In return, the prince told her about his own struggles, about the weight of the crown, about the pressure to marry for political reasons, about how everyone wanted something from him, about how he missed his parents every single day. They had a true love match, he said softly. That is rare in our world. Most nobles marry for duty or money. But my parents loved each other deeply. I always hoped I might find that too. But it seems impossible now. Why? Clara asked. Because everyone I meet is playing a role, he said. They are trying to be what they think I want. I never see who they really are. How can you love someone when you do not know the truth of them? Clara understood. She had seen it herself. Lady Margaret and Lady Jane, putting on false smiles, pretending to be sweet and kind when they were really cruel and selfish. You deserve to be loved for who you are, Clara said, not for your crown. The prince looked at her for a long moment. So do you, Clara. They met every morning for a week. Each day, Clara fell more under his spell. He was kind and thoughtful. He listened when she spoke. He treated her like she mattered, like she was important. He made her laugh with stories about ridiculous council meetings. He shared his dreams of making the kingdom better, of helping the poor and reforming unfair laws. And Clara shared her dreams too. Small dreams, but real ones. She dreamed of having a home again, a real home where she was wanted. She dreamed of painting again, like her mother had taught her. She dreamed of singing without fear of being mocked. Sing for me now, the prince said one morning. What? No, I could not. Please, he urged. I would love to hear your voice. So Clara sang. A simple folk song her mother used to sing. Her voice was soft and sweet. She had not sung in so long that she feared she might have forgotten how, but the music came back to her naturally. It flowed out of her like water from a spring. When she finished, the prince had tears in his eyes. "That was beautiful," he whispered. "You are beautiful." Clara shook her head. "I am not beautiful, Your Highness. I am plain and ordinary." The prince reached out. He cupped her cheek in his hand. His thumb brushed away a tear she had not realized was falling. "You are the most beautiful person I have ever met," he said. "Your beauty comes from within, from your kind heart and your gentle spirit, from your strength and your resilience. That is real beauty, Clara, not silk gowns and jewels." Clara's heart felt like it might burst. No one had ever spoken to her like this. No one had ever made her feel precious and valued. "I should not feel this way," she whispered. "You are a prince. I am nobody. You are not nobody." His voice was fierce now. "You are Clara. You are the woman who saw me when no one else did. You are the woman who made me feel alive again. You are the woman I—" He stopped. He pulled his hand back. He stood up quickly. He ran his hand through his hair. He looked agitated, conflicted. "I must go," he said abruptly. "I am sorry. This was a mistake." He walked away quickly. Clara sat there, stunned. What had just happened? Had she done something wrong? Had she offended him somehow? She went back to her room with a heavy heart. She told herself it was better this way. She had been foolish to think that anything could come of these meetings. He was a prince. She was a servant. That was the way of the world. Nothing would change that. But that night, as she helped Lady Margaret prepare for bed, there was a knock on the door. A footman stood there, looking uncomfortable. "His Highness requests the presence of Miss Clara in the library," he announced. Lady Margaret's eyes went wide with shock and fury. "Clara? Why would the prince want to see Clara?" "I do not know, my lady," the footman said, "but I am to escort her immediately." Clara's hands shook as she followed the footman down the stairs. Her mind raced with possibilities. None of them were good. Had someone seen them in the garden? Was she in trouble? Would she be sent away? The library was a beautiful room lined with books from floor to ceiling. A fire crackled in the fireplace. Prince Alexander stood by the window. He turned when she entered. The footman left, closing the door behind him. "You asked to see me, Your Highness," Clara said quietly. The prince crossed the room to her. He took both her hands in his. He looked directly into her eyes. "I am sorry I left so abruptly this morning," he said. "I was afraid. I am still afraid, but I cannot deny the truth any longer. Clara, these past weeks have been the happiest of my life. You have given me something I thought I had lost forever. Hope, joy, a reason to smile. When I am with you, I feel like myself again. I feel alive." Clara's heart pounded. "Your Highness, I feel the same way. But—" "I know," he interrupted gently. "I know all the reasons this is impossible. I know the obstacles we face. But I also know that I cannot let you go. Not without trying. Clara, I need to know, do you care for me? Not as a prince, but as a man, as Alexander." Clara looked into his eyes. Those beautiful, sad, hopeful eyes. She knew she should lie. She should protect herself. But she had never been good at lying. "I do," she whispered. "I care for you so much it frightens me." The prince closed his eyes. Relief flooded his face. When he opened his eyes again, they were bright with emotion. "Then let me court you properly," he said. "Let me show you what you mean to me." "But how?" Clara asked. "I am a servant. Your court will never accept me. And my stepmother—" "Leave your stepmother to me," the prince said firmly. "As for the court, They will have to accept what I decide. I am the prince. Soon I will be king. I will not spend the rest of my life in a loveless marriage of duty. My parents taught me that love is the most important thing. I will not dishonor their memory by ignoring that lesson. You are speaking of marriage? Clara's voice came out as a squeak. I am speaking of the future, the prince said. Our future. If you will have me. Clara wanted to say yes. She wanted to throw herself into his arms and never let go. But fear held her back. Fear of being hurt. Fear of reaching for something only to have it snatched away. I need time to think, she said. This is all happening so fast. The prince nodded. He kissed her hands again. Take all the time you need. But know this, Clara. I am not giving up. I will fight for you. For us. The next day, everything changed. Lady Catherine received a private message from the prince. She went white as she read it. Then red with fury. She summoned Clara immediately. What have you done? She hissed. The moment Clara entered her room. How dare you throw yourself at His Highness? How dare you try to rise above your station? I did not throw myself at anyone, Clara said quietly. He sought me out. Lady Catherine slapped her. The blow snapped Clara's head to the side. Her cheek burned. Do not lie to me, Lady Catherine snarled. I know what you are. A scheming little nobody who thinks she can trap a prince. Well, it will not work. I will expose you for the fraud you are. But Lady Catherine could do nothing. The prince had made his intentions clear in his message. He wished to court Clara. He expected Lady Catherine to treat Clara with respect. If she did not, there would be consequences. Lady Catherine had no choice but to comply. She could not afford to anger the prince, but her hatred for Clara grew stronger. Lady Margaret and Lady Jane joined in. They mocked Clara viciously whenever the prince was not around. He will tire of you, Margaret spat. You are nothing special. He is just amusing himself with a common girl. He will cast you aside eventually. Clara tried not to listen, but the words burrowed into her heart. Was it true? Was she just a novelty to him? Would he eventually realize she was not worthy of him? The prince courted her publicly for the next 2 weeks. He walked with her in the gardens. He sat with her at meals. He danced with her at balls. He was attentive and kind. He treated her like she was precious. And slowly, Clara began to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was real. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. They discovered they both loved poetry. They both enjoyed riding horses. They both believed in justice and kindness. They laughed together. They shared comfortable silences. They held hands and stole kisses in hidden corners. Clara felt herself falling in love, truly deeply in love. Not with a prince, but with a man, with Alexander, with his kindness and his humor, with his intelligence and his passion for making the world better, with the way he looked at her like she was the most important person in the world. One afternoon, they rode out to a meadow beyond the estate. The prince had arranged a picnic. They sat on a blanket under a tree. They ate cheese and bread and strawberries. They drank cool wine and laughed at silly things. I want to show you something, the prince said. He pulled a small leather journal from his pocket. I have been writing poetry. I have not written since my mother died, but these past weeks, the words have been flowing again. Would you like to hear one? Yes, Clara said. Very much. The prince opened the journal. He read in a clear, steady voice. I thought I knew the shape of loneliness. I thought I knew the weight of grief, but I did not know that hearts could heal, that darkness could give way to light. Then she came with gentle hands and seeing eyes. She found the man beneath the crown. She made me want to live again. She showed me what it means to be found. Tears streamed down Clara's face. That is beautiful. Is it about you? The prince set the journal aside. He took her hands. It is about you, Clara. You have healed something in me that I thought was broken forever. I love you. I am in love with you. Completely. Utterly. Irrevocably. Clara could not speak. Her throat was too tight with emotion. So she showed him instead. She leaned forward and kissed him. It was her first real kiss. It was soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, they were both breathless. I love you too, Clara whispered. I love you so much. The prince pulled her close. She rested her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for a long time, holding each other, feeling complete. Marry me, the prince said suddenly. Clara pulled back to look at him. What? Marry me, he repeated. I know it is fast. I know there will be challenges, but I do not want to wait. I want you to be my wife, my princess, my future queen. I want to spend every day of the rest of my life with you. So please, Clara, will you marry me? Clara's mind reeled. This was happening too fast. It was too much. But when she looked into his eyes, all her fears melted away. This was right. This was real. This was love. Yes, she said. Yes, I will marry you. The prince let out a shout of joy. He picked her up and spun her around. They laughed and kissed and held each other. They were deliriously happy. But happiness never lasts forever. 2 days later, a carriage arrived at the estate. In it was the Duchess of York. She was a formidable woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper tongue. She was also the prince's late mother's closest friend. She had come as soon as she heard the news. Alexander, she said the moment she arrived, what is this nonsense I hear about you courting a servant girl? The prince stood tall. It is not nonsense, Your Grace. I am courting Clara because I love her, and I intend to marry her. The Duchess's face turned purple. Marry her? Have you lost your mind? She is a nobody. She has no title, no family, no fortune. The court will never accept her as queen. Then the court will have to learn to accept it, the prince said firmly. And what of duty? The Duchess demanded. What of your responsibility to the crown? You are meant to marry someone of royal blood, someone who can bring political advantage to the kingdom. This girl brings nothing. She brings everything that matters, the prince replied. His voice was steady and strong. She brings love and kindness and honesty. She sees me for who I really am. She makes me a better man. I will not give that up for political advantage. You are being foolish and selfish, the Duchess said. Your parents would be ashamed. That struck a nerve. The prince flinched. But then he straightened his shoulders. My parents taught me to value love above all else, he said. They would understand. They would want me to be happy. The Duchess tried a different approach. She turned to Clara, who had been standing silently in the corner. You, she said coldly. Do you truly believe you can be queen? Do you understand what that means? The scrutiny, the pressure. You will be mocked and criticized. Your every move will be judged. You will be held to standards you cannot possibly meet. Do you really want to subject yourself to that? Or are you just a greedy little girl chasing a crown? Clara felt the words like knives. Each one cut deep, because there was truth in them. She would be mocked. She would be judged. She was not prepared for that life, and she would bring scandal and trouble to the man she loved. Clara's voice trembled. I do not seek a crown. I only want—" "You only want what?" the Duchess pressed. "To ruin him, because that is what will happen. His reputation will be destroyed. The court will rebel. There may even be civil unrest. All because he chose to marry beneath him. Is that what you want?" "Stop," the prince commanded. His voice was hard as steel. "You will not speak to her that way." "I am speaking the truth," the Duchess said, "and you know it." After the Duchess left, a heavy silence fell over the room. Clara felt sick. The doubts that had been lurking at the edges of her mind came flooding back. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe she was being selfish. Maybe loving him was not enough. "She is wrong," the prince said. He came to Clara and took her hands. "Do not listen to her." "But what if she is right?" Clara whispered. "What if I do ruin you? What if marrying me causes terrible problems for the kingdom?" "Then we will face those problems together," the prince said firmly. But Clara could see the worry in his eyes. She could see that the Duchess's words had affected him too. Doubt had been planted, and doubt, once planted, was hard to root out. That night, Clara could not sleep. She paced her small room. Her mind went in circles. She loved Alexander. She wanted to be with him. But was love enough? Could love overcome the massive divide between their worlds? She thought of Lady Catherine and her stepsisters. She thought of the Duchess. She thought of all the nobles who would look at her with contempt. She thought of the weight of being queen, of the responsibility, of the constant scrutiny. Could she really do it? Or would she fail and bring shame to the man she loved? The next morning Clara did not go to the garden. She could not face Alexander, not yet. She needed to think. She needed to clear her head. But he found her anyway. He came to her room. He knocked softly. "Clara, may I come in?" She opened the door. He looked worried, tired, like he had not slept either. "You did not come to the garden," he said. "I needed time to think," Clara replied. "And what have you decided?" Clara took a deep breath. "I love you. I love you so much it hurts. But I do not know if love is enough. I do not know if I am strong enough to be what you need. What the kingdom needs." The prince stepped into the room. He closed the door behind him. He took her hands in his. "Listen to me," he said intently. "You are strong enough. You are stronger than you know. You have survived things that would break most people. You have endured cruelty and hardship and still remained kind. That takes incredible strength. And yes, being queen will be hard. There will be challenges, but we will face them together. I believe in you, Clara. I believe in us." Tears rolled down Clara's cheeks. "But what if I fail? What if I cannot do it?" "Then we will figure it out together," he said simply. "Clara, I would rather face difficulties with you than live an easy life without you. You are my heart. You are my home. Please do not give up on us." Clara wanted to believe him. She wanted to be brave. But fear held her back. Before she could answer, there was a commotion downstairs. Raised voices, running footsteps. The prince and Clara hurried out of the room. They rushed down the stairs. In the entrance hall, Lady Catherine stood with a man Clara had never seen before. He was tall and cruel-looking. He wore expensive clothes, but there was something oily about him. "There she is." Lady Catherine pointed at Clara. "That is the girl who has been pretending to be of noble birth. That is the girl who has been deceiving His Highness. What is the meaning of this?" the prince demanded. The cruel-looking man smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Your Highness, I am Lord Grimsby. I have information about this girl. Information you should know before you make a terrible mistake. What information? The prince asked coldly. Her father was a merchant, Lord Grimsby said. A common tradesman. He bought a small estate and pretended to be gentry. But he was not noble. He was nobody. And this girl is his daughter. She has no right to move in noble circles. She certainly has no right to aim for the throne. A collective gasp went through the gathered servants and guests. Everyone stared at Clara. She felt the weight of their judgment. The shame. Is this true? Someone asked. She is a fraud. Lady Margaret cried out with glee. An impostor, Lady Jane added. Clara wanted to die. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. She had not lied about who she was. She had never claimed to be noble. But the truth was even worse. She was not even gentry. She was the daughter of a merchant. In their world, that was almost as bad as being a beggar. The prince stepped forward. He stood between Clara and the crowd. His voice rang out clear and strong. Yes, he said, her father was a merchant. A good, honest man who worked hard and provided for his family. There is no shame in that. No shame? Lord Grimsby laughed. Your Highness, surely you see that this makes marriage impossible. She is not even remotely suitable. She is more suitable than anyone else I have ever met, the prince declared. She has something that none of you have. She has a good heart. She has kindness and courage and strength. She has treated me like a person, not a title, and that is worth more than all the noble bloodlines in the kingdom. But your Highness, the Duchess began. No, the prince's voice was firm. I have listened to all of you. I have heard your concerns, and I understand that there will be challenges. But I will not give up the woman I love because of outdated ideas about blood and class. Love is what matters. Character is what matters. And Clara has more character in her little finger than most nobles have in their entire being. He turned to Clara. He held out his hand. Clara, he said softly, I know you are afraid. I know this is hard. But please, trust me. Trust us. Take my hand. Clara looked at his outstretched hand. Then she looked at the crowd. They were all staring at her. Some looked shocked. Some looked angry. Some looked disgusted. Lady Catherine looked triumphant. She thought she had won. But then Clara looked at Alexander. Really looked at him. She saw the love in his eyes. She saw the hope. She saw a man who was willing to fight for her. A man who saw her worth when no one else did. And suddenly, Clara found something she did not know she had. Courage. She took his hand. Yes, she said clearly. I am the daughter of a merchant. I am not noble. I have been treated as a servant. But I am not ashamed. My father was a good man. He worked hard and he loved me. There is no shame in honest work. There is no shame in who I am. And I love Prince Alexander. I love him with all my heart. If he still wants me, then yes, I will marry him. The prince's face blazed with joy and pride. He pulled her close. He kissed her right there in front of everyone. A kiss that claimed her. A kiss that said she was his, and he was hers, and nothing else mattered. When they pulled apart, the crowd stood in stunned silence. Then, slowly, the prince went down on one knee before Clara. Everyone gasped. Clara, he said, his voice carrying through the hall, I kneel before you not as a prince, but as a man who has found his everything in you. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Will you stand beside me and help me rule with compassion and justice? Will you be my partner in all things? Tears streamed down Clara's face. She nodded. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, I will. The prince stood. He lifted her off her feet and spun her around. And then something unexpected happened. Cook, who had been watching from the doorway, started clapping. Slowly, other servants joined in. Then some of the younger guests. The applause spread. Not everyone clapped. Lady Catherine looked like she had swallowed a lemon. The Duchess frowned deeply. Lord Grimsby stormed out, but enough people clapped that it filled the hall with sound. The prince set Clara down gently. He turned to address the crowd. "Let this be a lesson," he said. "True nobility comes from the heart, not from bloodlines. True worth is measured in kindness, not in titles. Clara will be my wife and your future queen, and I promise you this. We will rule with love and compassion. We will fight for justice for all people, noble and common alike. This I swear." The applause grew louder. In the weeks that followed, there was indeed scandal. Some nobles protested, some threatened to boycott the wedding. The Duchess remained disapproving, though she eventually softened when she saw how happy Alexander was. But the common people loved the story. They loved that their prince had chosen love over duty. They loved that he had elevated a merchant's daughter to the throne. It gave them hope. It made them believe that their kingdom would be ruled by people who understood them. Clara and Alexander were married 3 months later in the Grand Cathedral. Clara wore a beautiful gown of white silk and lace. Her hair was adorned with flowers. She walked down the aisle alone. She had no father to give her away, but she walked with her head high and her heart full. When she reached the altar, Alexander took her hand. He looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. They spoke their vows with tears in their eyes. They promised to love and cherish each other, to stand together through all of life's challenges, to honor and respect each other always. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, Alexander kissed Clara with such tenderness that many in the congregation wept. After the ceremony, there was a grand feast. Clara sat beside her husband at the head table. She wore a crown now, a delicate thing of silver and diamonds, but it did not feel heavy. Not when Alexander held her hand beneath the table, not when he whispered in her ear that he loved her, not when she looked out at the crowd and saw Cook beaming at her with pride. That night, in their private chambers, Alexander held Clara close. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. Clara smiled. "I am more than happy. I am home. For the first time in years, I feel like I am home." "So do I," Alexander replied. He kissed her forehead. "You are my home, Clara. Wherever you are, that is where I belong." They made love that night with tenderness and passion. They learned each other's bodies. They whispered words of love and devotion. They became one in every way that mattered. In the months and years that followed, Clara proved herself to be an excellent princess and later queen. She used her position to help the poor and disadvantaged. She opened schools for common children. She reformed unfair laws. She treated everyone with kindness and respect, from the highest duke to the lowest servant. Alexander ruled with wisdom and compassion. But everyone knew that Clara was his most trusted advisor. She helped him see the world from different perspectives. She reminded him that the crown was meant to serve the people, not the other way around. They had 4 children, 3 girls and a boy. They raised them to be kind and fair. They taught them that every person has value, regardless of their birth. Lady Catherine eventually died, bitter and alone. Lady Margaret and Lady Jane made poor marriages and were never seen at court. Lord Grimsby lost his fortune in bad investments. But Clara did not waste time thinking about revenge. She was too busy living a beautiful life filled with love and purpose. Every morning, no matter how busy they were, Clara and Alexander made time to walk in the gardens together. They would sit on that same bench where they had first really talked. They would hold hands and watch the sunrise. They would remember those early days when they had found each other. "Do you ever regret it?" Clara asked one morning, years after their wedding. "Choosing me? Facing all that scandal and trouble?" Alexander turned to her. His grey eyes, no longer sad, sparkled with love and joy. "Not for a single moment," he said firmly. "You are the best decision I ever made. You gave me back my life, Clara. You gave me love and joy and purpose. You gave me everything that matters. I would face 1,000 scandals for you." Clara leaned her head on his shoulder. "I love you," she whispered. "And I love you," he replied, "always and forever." They sat there as the sun rose higher, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Two people who had been lost and lonely, two people who had found each other against all odds, two people who had proven that love, real love, could conquer anything. And they lived happily ever after. Not because their life was perfect or easy, but because they faced everything together. Because they chose each other every single day. Because they had learned the most important lesson of all. True love sees the person beneath the surface. True love values the heart over the bloodline. True love kneels not in submission, but in recognition of equal worth. And that is the kind of love that lasts forever.